Imagine a book so dangerous, so forbidden, that for centuries it was hidden from the eyes of humanity. Not because of fire or conquest, but because its contents threatened the very framework of collective belief. Imagine knowledge that could unravel the narratives we hold dear, the stories that define nations, civilizations, and even our sense of self. The idea that a single text could rewrite the understanding of humanity's past seems fantastical. Yet evidence suggests such manuscripts have existed, their shadows lingering in monastic libraries, secret vaults, and forgotten ruins. What if our history, the one we rely on to explain our present, is not fixed, but adaptive, contingent upon what we are ready to perceive and internalize? Neuropsychologists would tell us that human cognition thrives on patterns, on coherence. Yet it is precisely our cognitive architecture, our need to simplify complex reality, that makes us susceptible to blind spots. The Forbidden Book, in a sense, exploited these blind spots, revealing anomalies in chronology, evidence of civilizations far older and far more sophisticated than previously acknowledged, civilizations whose achievements were deliberately obscured. To encounter such knowledge is not merely to read a document. It is to experience a paradigm shift, a cognitive signal that forces the brain to reorganize its model of reality. From a societal perspective, think of the human population as an energy network, a complex system of nodes, where information pulses, feedback loops regulate behavior, and emergent properties arise from countless individual decisions. A forbidden text is like an unexpected surge in that network, a signal that challenges standard pathways, forcing the collective system to recalibrate. Early examples of such manuscripts, whether written on fragile papyrus, etched in stone, or coded in symbols, describe civilizations whose understanding of astronomy, mathematics, and social organization far exceeded the supposed capabilities of their time. These texts hint at knowledge lost to cataclysms, suppressed by political authorities, or deliberately hidden by scholars who understood the destabilizing potential of truth. What is fascinating from a psychological standpoint is not only the content itself, but the reaction it evokes in societies. Humans exhibit a remarkable cognitive bias known as confirmation bias. We are drawn to information that fits our pre-existing beliefs, and are quick to reject anomalies. The Forbidden Book, by its very nature, violates these heuristics. It does not conform to the expected patterns, and yet its internal logic is flawless. This paradox has profound implications for history. Perhaps much of what we regard as settled is merely the collective comfort of narrative over empirical anomaly. Consider stress responses in the brain, specifically the amygdala's role in threat perception. When societies face cognitive dissonance induced by anomalous historical evidence, the response can be similar to a stress reaction. In an individual, denial, suppression, or even aggression. Entire political and religious structures have historically acted to contain such signals, often labeling them heretical or dangerous. In this sense, the Forbidden Book becomes a psychological mirror, reflecting the mechanisms of societal adaptation, the limits of perception, and the strategies civilizations employ to maintain coherence under informational stress. Imagine, then, that a society discovers a manuscript describing an empire that existed tens of thousands of years before recorded history, detailing technologies and social systems that mirror modern concepts of energy distribution, network communication, and collective decision-making. The initial reaction is disbelief, often followed by strategic suppression. If the human brain and society at large are tuned to operate within a specific temporal and spatial framework, knowledge outside that framework represents a potential collapse of shared meaning. Here we encounter a philosophical question. Is history the objective record of events, or is it the narrative that societies collectively agree upon to maintain stability? Neurohistory, a term emerging from the intersection of neuroscience and historiography, suggests that memory, both individual and collective, is inherently reconstructive. Each generation encodes the past not as it objectively occurred, but filtered through cognitive and cultural biases, emotional salience, and the necessity of functional narratives. The Forbidden Book, then, is not merely a text, but an intrusion into this reconstructive process, a signal that demands the network of human cognition to reorganize itself. Its existence implies that the past is not static. It is a dynamic field, adaptable to the readiness of perception. In reading such a text, one confronts the limitations of human comprehension. Concepts of time, causality, and societal evolution are challenged, forcing the observer to reconcile anomalies with established paradigms. This mirrors the function of the prefrontal cortex, which integrates sensory inputs, memory, and prediction to guide adaptive behavior. A society encountering forbidden knowledge must perform a collective prefrontal integration, deciding what to accept, what to reinterpret, and what to suppress. From an anthropological perspective, civilizations have long employed similar strategies. Archaeological records reveal instances where older, sophisticated settlements were intentionally buried or neglected in the historical narrative, either due to conquest, religious dogma, or political expedience. The brain's need for continuity, mirrored at the level of society, often prioritizes a coherent story over absolute truth. Thus, the Forbidden Book exposes not only hidden knowledge but the mechanisms of historical cognition itself. One might wonder why such texts were not universally destroyed. Here, we encounter the paradoxical interplay between suppression and survival. Information, once encoded, leaves traces, inscriptions, oral traditions, marginalia in surviving manuscripts, and cryptic symbols in ruins. Even when the book itself vanished, its echoes persisted, acting as weak signals in the human cognitive network. These weak signals influenced architecture, governance, philosophy, and science in subtle ways, shaping civilizations without overt acknowledgement. Herein lies a profound insight. What we dismiss as myth or anomaly may, in fact, be the fragmented memory of a far older, more advanced system. A reminder that history is a palimpsest, overwritten yet never entirely erased. Psychologically, encountering fragments of forbidden knowledge triggers a remarkable phenomenon known as the aha effect or insight moment. It is a sudden reconfiguration of neural networks in response to a novel, meaningful pattern. On a societal scale, such insights are disruptive. They catalyze revolutions in thought, from Copernicus challenging geocentric cosmology to the rediscovery of advanced engineering in antiquity. The Forbidden Book functions as a catalyst for these insight moments, destabilizing entrenched narratives and prompting cognitive reorganization both individually and collectively. Consider perception and its limitations. Human senses and cognition evolved to interpret local, immediate stimuli, not to grasp vast temporal or spatial scales. The book's content, describing civilizations spanning tens of millennia or technologies beyond current comprehension, it overwhelms conventional perceptual filters. In essence, it forces humanity to expand its cognitive capacity to perceive not just the narrative comfortable for survival, but the underlying complexity of historical reality. The twist: the Forbidden Book is not merely a curiosity but a profound agent of adaptation. It lies in the interplay between perceived weakness and systemic resilience. When societies encounter destabilizing knowledge, their initial reaction is denial, fear, or suppression. This is often interpreted as fragility. Yet, from a systems perspective, this very reaction protects the network, allowing incremental integration of new information without catastrophic collapse. The brain, when confronted with incongruent input, temporarily heightens inhibitory processes. Societies mirror this function. The suppression is not weakness but an adaptive buffer, a protective measure allowing gradual assimilation. History provides vivid examples of this process. Manuscripts describing advanced pre-dynastic civilizations suppressed in official chronicles later inspired Renaissance architecture, navigation, and scientific methods. Knowledge dangerous in its immediate context became invaluable once the cognitive and cultural infrastructure could absorb it. In this sense, the Forbidden Book is both a disruptor and a teacher, forcing humanity to confront its limitations, adapt, and expand. Philosophically, it raises questions about epistemology and the ethics of knowledge. Should information be withheld to protect societal stability? Or is the pursuit of truth an absolute imperative? Neuropsychology suggests that timing matters. Sudden influxes of information beyond the brain's integrative capacity can induce stress, cognitive dissonance, and societal turbulence. Therefore, suppression may serve a delayed protective function, ensuring that knowledge is assimilated when systems are ready. One cannot ignore the metaphorical resonance, the human brain as a network, civilizations as energy systems, historical events as signals. Each forbidden text represents a pulse in this network, often faint, sometimes overwhelming, challenging the thresholds of perception and adaptation. Our ancestors' ability to survive cataclysms, migrations, and social upheavals relied on their capacity to filter, prioritize, and integrate information. The Forbidden Book operates as an extreme test of these capacities, illuminating the delicate balance between curiosity and coherence. We also encounter ethical reflections. The book's suppression and rediscovery underscore the tension between individual cognition and collective cognition. A single mind may perceive and understand the anomaly, yet integration into society requires negotiation, translation, and compromise. Historical narratives are not merely records but contracts between generations, defining identity, legitimacy, and purpose. Altering these narratives can destabilize not only knowledge but the social contract itself. In contemporary terms, consider the implications for scientific and historical inquiry. Rediscovered or decoded texts challenge us to expand our models, question assumptions, and embrace complexity. They compel a humility grounded in evidence, the realization that human understanding is provisional, that civilizations rise and fall not solely through material forces, but through the delicate interplay of cognition, culture, and information networks. One of the most striking lessons from the story of Forbidden's knowledge is the iterative nature of understanding. History is less a straight line than a feedback loop, where perception, adaptation, and reinterpretation interact. Each generation inherits not only events but the cognitive strategies of its predecessors. The book, when encountered anew, acts as a corrective signal, prompting reassessment and recalibration. From a psychological standpoint, this resonates with the concept of neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to reorganize itself in response to new information. Societies, in parallel, exhibit cultural plasticity, adjusting institutions, beliefs, and practices in response to disruptive knowledge. Here, we find a profound symmetry. The microcosm of individual cognition mirrors the macrocosm of societal adaptation, each responding to the same informational pulse. The Forbidden Book also illuminates the interplay between memory, myth, and material evidence. What appears as legend may encode fragments of empirical reality disguised to survive cognitive and cultural filtering. Conversely, material artifacts, when isolated from narrative, may fail to convey significance. The book serves as an integrative medium, translating signals across cognitive scales, linking observation, interpretation, and meaning. Its absence distorts perception. Its presence forces reconsideration. Ultimately, encountering the Forbidden Book teaches us about the limits and potential of humanity. It confronts us with our collective myopia, our biases, our fear of destabilization. And simultaneously, it reveals our capacity for insight, adaptation, and expansion of consciousness. The philosophical implication is clear. History is not merely discovered. It is decoded, interpreted, and integrated. The past is less a fixed chronicle than a living system, responsive to the readiness of perception and the integrity of cognitive networks. In a world increasingly inundated with information, the metaphor extends. Each of us, individually and collectively, faces signals too complex or disruptive to process comfortably. The Forbidden Book reminds us that temporary suppression, measured reflection, and incremental assimilation are not failures, but essential adaptive strategies. It also suggests that our perception of weakness may conceal resilience. That apparent ignorance or denial can protect the coherence of the system while allowing eventual enlightenment. In conclusion, the Forbidden Book that rewrote humanity's past is more than a historical artifact. It is a lens through which we understand the interplay of cognition, culture, and knowledge. It is a mirror reflecting our neural and societal architectures, our capacity to confront anomaly, integrate insight, and evolve intellectually. It challenges us to reconsider linear notions of progress, to embrace complexity, and to recognize that history, like the brain, is a dynamic system, constantly reorganizing in response to new signals. The book's legacy is therefore not merely the knowledge it contains, but the process it instigates. A reflective recalibration of perception, a philosophical and scientific invitation to explore the unknown, to question the comfortable, and to expand the boundaries of understanding. As we confront contemporary mysteries, technological revolutions, and historical enigmas, we carry forward the lesson: truth is not always immediately digestible, and wisdom lies in the patient integration of signals, the recognition of systemic patterns, and the courage to confront anomaly. In the end, the Forbidden Book asks us not just what we know about the past, but what we are willing to learn about ourselves and the collective trajectory of humanity. It is a reminder that the mind, the society, and history itself are interconnected systems, adaptive and resilient, capable of extraordinary insight when the signal is strong enough and the network prepared to receive it. The challenge then is perpetual, to remain open to the unexpected, to tolerate temporary dissonance, and to cultivate the capacity to decode the pulses that whisper from the depths of forgotten centuries. What other truths lie hidden, waiting for cognition and culture to align? Which signals have we dismissed as myth, anomaly, or coincidence, yet contain the blueprint of civilizations long vanished? The Forbidden Book serves as both question and answer, a reminder that our understanding of humanity's past is provisional, our perception fallible, and our potential vast. As you ponder these ideas, consider this. How would you, as an individual and as part of a global network, respond to knowledge that destabilizes your fundamental assumptions? Would you suppress it, integrate it, or transform in response? History suggests that the path to wisdom lies in the measured response, in the recalibration of both mind and society. The Forbidden Book is ultimately not an artifact of fear but an instrument of insight, a testament to the adaptive power of cognition and culture, and a call to recognize that understanding is an ongoing process, an evolving dialogue between perception, evidence, and meaning. If this exploration has challenged your understanding, inspired questions, or prompted reflection, share your thoughts in the comments. Engage with the network of ideas, subscribe to Pastlens for more journeys through hidden histories, and embrace the adventure of decoding the signals that shape our collective consciousness.